Revenge films.
My name is Melissa. I'm a 32-year-old wife and mother. I live with my husband, Michael, who is the same age as me, and our 3-year-old daughter, Hannah, and we're a happy family of 3. This was my 5th year of being married to Michael, but ever since we first got married, we've been renting an apartment close to Michael's family home and living there. Because my father-in-law had passed away already, Michael and I discussed that it would be better for us to live close to his mother so that we would be able to support her since she lived by herself. My mother-in-law, Mrs. Smith, would come over to our house and play with Hannah, and I thought that things were going pretty well with her. However, one day, a change occurred in that relationship of ours, and that was when my husband was told by his company that he would have to go on a 1-year business assignment in a different state. Well, this was going to cause us some trouble. In our household, both my husband and I were working, and my days off were only on the weekdays. I had shifts scheduled on every weekend. Until now, we were leaving Hannah in the care of a nursery on the weekdays, and on the weekends while I was working in my part-time job, Michael would be at home taking care of Hannah. That was how we structured our life. But if Michael wasn't going to be around, then there wouldn't be anybody to look after Hannah on the weekends. The nursery that she was going to wasn't open on Saturdays or Sundays, so I didn't know what to do with Michael away for a year. But that was when my mother-in-law came up with a suggestion.
On the weekends, I'll look after Hannah for you.
To be honest, this was extremely helpful because then I wouldn't have to change my schedule at my part-time job. And so, after my husband went away on his 1-year business assignment, my mother-in-law started coming over every Saturday and Sunday to look after Hannah. Well, Mrs. Smith, thank you so much for looking after Hannah today.
Of course. You don't need to worry about anything. Have a good shift.
My mother-in-law would then spend the whole day with Hannah until the evening, and she would leave our house at the same time as me coming home. But since the first day that she started coming over, I noticed something strange had started to happen. Wait a minute, that's weird. We don't have soy sauce anymore? Even though I just bought a new bottle the other day at the grocery store. Wait a minute. We're already out of toilet paper? I thought I just restocked on our stash yesterday. I started to notice that things were disappearing from the house. I didn't want to question my mother-in-law, but just in case I asked Hannah, and to my disbelief, she told me that her grandma was taking all of these things home with her. Everything was an inexpensive, disposable item, but I thought that I should at least say something to her about it. Mrs. Smith, can you please stop taking things out of my house without telling me? If you could just say a word about it, I would be happy to share them with you if you just let me know. I tried to be kind about it, but this was her response.
Oh, all I did was borrow it. You don't need to be so annoying about every little thing like that. How petty.
And she didn't even try to acknowledge that she was doing something wrong. And then, as we were going about our lives like this, one day the most outrageous thing happened. It was just like any other day, and when I finished cleaning up after dinner and I was just about to take a bath, I noticed that the washing machine that was in our bathroom was entirely gone. There's no way that something that large would suddenly go missing. And I couldn't possibly think that a thief had come in and carried out just the washing machine either. Once again, I didn't want to think the worst of anybody, but I called over to Hannah and I asked her, "Hey, Hannah, remember the washing machine that was here? Do you know what happened to it?" But then, I was shocked by Hannah's response.
"Oh, that washing machine? Grandma took it with her. She said that she was going to use it at her house."
I thought that I must be hearing things. Until now, I tried to turn a blind eye and didn't say much else to her, but I couldn't believe that she would take the entire washing machine. That being said, there is no way that she would have been able to carry that by herself and take it. So I immediately called my mother-in-law and I confronted her. "Mrs. Smith, did you take our washing machine out of our house?"
I'm just borrowing it for a little while. But don't worry, I'm going to give it back to you soon.
What do you mean you're going to give it back to me? How did you carry something so heavy all the way to your house?
Of course I hired people, and I asked them to move it to my house. It's so heavy, I can't move it by myself anyway.
When that was her response, I was disappointed from the bottom of my heart. First of all, if she had the money to hire people to move the washing machine, she could have just spent the same amount of money to buy a new washing machine. I realized that this woman truly only ever looks at the problem directly in front of her and doesn't think ahead. And plus, I've never once heard of anybody borrowing an entire washing machine. During that time, what on earth was I supposed to do about the laundry in our household? From that week, I had no other choice but to have to go to a laundromat to do my own laundry. Even though she said that she was going to give it back, no matter how long I waited, the laundry machine wasn't coming back to my house. In the end, I was stuck having to purchase a new one, and it was a painful expense that I wasn't expecting to have to pay. After that incident, I realized that I couldn't let my mother-in-law into our house anymore, and so I immediately started looking for a nursery that could take Hannah on the weekends, and I decided to leave Hannah there while I was at work. I felt bad for Hannah that she wouldn't be able to be home, but until my husband comes back, I needed to protect my house and our belongings. I then told my mother-in-law, "I'm going to put Hannah in the care of a nursery on the weekends, so please, don't come into my house anymore." I was very stern with her. And perhaps it worked, because my mother-in-law didn't come into my house for a while after that. However, not long after this whole incident,
I'm not taking things from your place anymore. That must mean you have money to spare again. And I know that if you have Michael's income as well, so whatever you have to spare, you better hand over that money to me.
out of nowhere one day, my mother-in-law suddenly started saying this outrageous demand. And not only that, but she was demanding $1,000 a month. This was too much for me to handle. And so I had decided that I was going to ignore her about it. But then this time, to my disbelief, she even sent me an invoice for it. What? What is this? Seriously, what is that woman thinking? I honestly thought about calling my husband straight away and complaining about it. But as if to get ahead of me, I received a phone call from my mother-in-law.
So, did you receive my invoice? From now on, I'm going to make sure that you pay that amount every single month to me. And also, if you try to tell Michael about this, I hope you know what's going to happen to you. Any dishonest wife like that, I'm going to make sure he immediately gets a divorce from.
What kind of crazy nonsense was this woman saying? I could just ignore her and go straight to my husband and tell him. But I was so pissed off that I decided I was going to put an end to this myself once and for all. I was receiving an envelope containing an invoice from my mother-in-law every single month, but I was somehow coming up with excuses to dodge it and dragged it on as long as I could, while I eagerly awaited for the day that Michael came home. And then, a few months later, my husband's one-year-long business assignment finally finished, and he was finally going to come home.
Welcome home. It was a long time you were away. It must have been really hard.
Yeah, I'm sorry for the trouble I caused you by being away for so long. Was everything okay with life over here? Did you and Melissa get along?
Yes, of course we did. We got along very well, isn't that right, Melissa?
Yes, I suppose we did. Yes.
Well then, today I've made your favorite food, my homemade curry. So, eat as much as you want, everybody.
The moment that my husband came home, my mother-in-law was acting as if everything until now hadn't happened. And she was acting like everything was peaceful and happy. She must have thought that as long as I stayed quiet, then Michael would never know what she had been up to. No, that reminds me. Mrs. Smith, after receiving all of those invoices from you, I'm pretty sure I hadn't paid them to you yet. I'm sorry about that. When I said that out of nowhere, my mother-in-law jumped and her face started to turn pale. I'm so sorry about that. Even though I had received this many invoices from you, I'm sorry that the payment was so late. Here you go. There it is. As I said that, I pulled out a stack of $10,000, which is the money that I had been invoiced for until now from my mother-in-law, and I threw it on the table.
What? What's this all about? What invoice? What's all of this money? What's going on?
Of course, my husband couldn't wrap his head around the situation and he was panicking. That's right. I had been waiting for this very moment all of these months. The moment that I would be able to expose everything right in front of my husband's eyes. My mother-in-law was making a very big mistake if she thought that I was the type of woman to just do whatever she said and stay quiet about it. Not long after that, my husband had picked up all of the invoices that my mother-in-law had sent me, and by looking at them, it seemed that he understood the gist of the situation.
What's this all about? What invoice? What's all of this money? What's going on?
My husband was furious. But then, my mother-in-law in turn lost her temper with me.
Didn't I tell you to not get Michael involved in this?
But I didn't hesitate in my response. Yes, so I haven't said anything to Michael at all, have I? As you can see, he has no idea what we're talking about. It just so happens that he overheard this conversation I was having with you. She was cornered, and my mother-in-law started to panic, and sweat started streaming down her head. She was flustered, and she tried to come up with excuses.
No, this isn't what it looks like. It was just a little prank. It's nothing at all.
She started trying to say all of these excuses, but that was when Hannah chimed in.
Daddy, guess what? Apparently, Grandma was telling Mommy every month that she better pay $1,000. Mommy was always really troubled by it.
Hannah, opening her mouth, that was the end of it all. But of course, she hadn't told Hannah not to say anything, so it was all fair game, and there was nothing she could do about it.
While I wasn't around, I can't believe that you were trying to collect this massive amount of money! You better explain to me exactly what on earth this is about!
Well, no. What happened was that because I stopped taking things from your place.
What did you just say? So you were stealing things from my house?
No. What I'm saying is, I already stopped, and so I thought that you would have extra money thanks to that, so...
You know, Grandma was taking snacks and clothes and all kinds of things from our house. And also the washing machine too.
Are you kidding me? I'm cutting off all ties with somebody like you! You're not my family anymore!
And just like that, Michael cut off all ties with his mother and left her. Ever since that incident, we haven't had any interactions with her whatsoever. But it seems that nowadays she's living all by herself, lonely and with nobody to rely on.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.